Hi, holistic moms. How are you? I'm your host, Shan, and I'm happy to be here today. And I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things. So, I have shared on this whole podcast that we are spiritual beings. That is our main wellness area, and everything else flows from it. We are holistic in the fact that it's all connected. And I think your spiritual wellness is at the forefront. That is what we're all connected to. And we need to spend special attention, therefore, to our spiritual wellness. Today, we're going to talk about just the very basic of that. The very basic thing you need to do to be intentional with your spiritual wellness. This is real simple. I hope you get something from this and you can implement this, because this is what changed everything for me spiritually. Let's go. Mama, you didn't know you could yell at your precious 2-year-old. You feel so guilty and like you're doing the worst job at mothering. You feel like you're failing, and you're failing your kids and yourself and your spouse, and you just aren't a good enough mom. You also feel that if you just had a little more time, a little more patience, a little more energy, and a lot more sleep, you would be better. I know this because this was me not that long ago. I felt I should be a better mom because my kids only get one. It's me. But there was so much pressure from the culture around me to do better, to be better, and in myself. And this pressure kept building to the point where I almost snapped. I need you to hear me that these are lies the enemy wants you to believe. But until you pull up the roots of these lies, they will continue to be what you operate under, and you will continue to feel this way. I want you to live and walk and mother in God's truth. Surviving by treading water and being exhausted all the time isn't how motherhood is supposed to be. The gift of a child or children is your time to thrive and shine. If you are saying yes and amen to that, won't you join me in this life-changing step? I want you to go right now to bit.ly/Shan Wright, ShanWright. We are going to do this together. I'm going to hold your hand and we're going to overcome these lies, dig up roots, and plant beautiful flowers of truth that have strong roots. You are going to blossom into a beautiful, vibrant mother. You ready? Let's go. Hey mama, are you stressed by the lack of time in the day to do all the things? Are you feeling disconnected from God, your husband, and even your kids because patience and presence seem out of reach? Do you want a healthier body, mind, spirit, and home, but overwhelmed in where to start? Hey, I'm Shan Wright, daughter of the king, wife, mom to 4, RN, wellness coach, and I know very well what it feels like to want to live well, but about to lose it with my very blessed, full life. After realizing I can't pour from an empty cup, I tracked my way to whole body wellness and so much peace. If you are ready to cancel the stressed out life, learn tactical, intentional strategies as a mom wearing many hats, find more peace, confidence, and joy raising kingdom kids, then listen in. Come on, mama, together we got this. Really, God's got this. So go heat up that coffee again and turn your listening ears on. Let's chat. I've shared that in my postpartum anxiety journey, God gave me 4 simple solutions. And you can listen to the first few episodes of this whole podcast to find out more about that story. But he gave me these simple solutions. And I want to rewind because in that I say God gave them to me. And you might be wondering, how? How did he give them to you? How did you hear God tell you these simple solutions? How did you hear his voice? What does that look like? Practically, tell me what you did. And it all comes down to prayer, right? And I think the practice of prayer develops over time as we grow in our relationship with God and discover how He communicates with us, personally with us. Because remember, prayer is just a conversation. It's having a conversation with God. And I actually tell you, recommend, encourage you in so many episodes that the first thing you do in all the whatever I'm talking about is to go to God, ask God, talk to God. And I'm like, well, I wonder if you as a listener are still stuck on that spot. And you're saying, Shan, I need more direction. I need more help in this area. And I know I've actually talked to a few of you, and that has been what you want to focus on because you are still stuck there. That's the point of this episode, is to help you do that first thing when it comes to prayer. It's going to help you get unstuck, okay? And I think when we are stuck in whatever spot, whatever wellness area we are stuck in, we have to take that first baby step and realize that that baby step forward, that little intentional action actually gets the ball rolling. It actually speeds up the process. It gets us moving. It gets us going in the right direction. And it might look so small to us, but if we can be very intentional with that one thing, then we're going to do the next thing and the next thing. And before we know it, we are on our way to our wellness goal, whatever it is. So if yours is prayer and hearing the voice of God and having a more robust spiritual wellness and prayer relationship with God, then this is an episode you're going to want to tune into and really make sure you have this first thing down, okay? So the first thing when it comes to prayer and having that time with God is to get alone with God. It's solitude. Solitude, even some silence and some communication on your part. So prayer and talking to God, but also some silence. And so I want to encourage you in this episode to be alone with God. I've heard a podcaster, speaker, author, Kat Lee of Hello Mornings give this analogy, which I think is brilliant. If you are a believer and you have a relationship with God, then He is with you, right? We know that. We know that's a promise in the Bible. We know that is a fact. He is with you. That's truth. So when you wake up in the morning and you're running around and you're rushing and you're doing all the things you need to do, even if you're sitting and working right away, and you don't acknowledge the presence of God with you and say even, good morning, God, and thank you for this day, and even a quick prayer, it's almost like you're ignoring the most important person in your life. And you're saying, well, I don't have an hour to spend with you right now, so I'm not even going to talk to you. I'm not even going to acknowledge your presence, and I'm not even going to say good morning and thank you for this day and take the 2 seconds out of my time to acknowledge your presence. And that was like, wow. Like, imagine if you did that to your child. They woke up and they rushed off to school and you never acknowledged them. And you never said good morning and how are you? And, can I get you something? Can I help you with breakfast? You didn't even say anything to them. You just rushed them off. Like, that would be sad. I think feelings would be hurt. People would be upset. You know how it is when you get ignored. Being ignored and not heard or seen is very upsetting. Now, I don't think God is upset with us, but I think He is saying, hey, child, I'm still trying to teach you, child. I am here. I am here with you. We are His children, and we still need instruction and teaching. And so we look to our Father and say, teach me. And He's saying, okay, I'm trying. You're not listening. I need you to recognize that I am with you every second of the day while you're sleeping and while you're awake. I'm with you. And so I don't care if you don't have an hour to spend with me right now. but I want you to recognize that I just woke you up another day. I just gave you another day. So that I think that's what he wants. I think he wants us to depend on him, right? We cannot do anything without him. We can't even do the rushing around in the work that we're trying to do without him. So just saying, thank you, God. Thanks for being with me right now. Thanks for waking me up. So anyway, that's the first thing. That's the first thing, is to acknowledge him. Let's look to our example, which is Jesus, right? So in Mark 1:35, it says, very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. And we see often in the Bible that Jesus got alone and prayed. And he prayed at different times. He prayed in the morning, he prayed at night, but he was always getting alone with God. He was getting alone with his Father and having that time of solitude. Behavioral health therapists and neuroscientists agree that due to today's world and this technology we're in and constant noise, we suffer. We actually suffer from solitude deprivation. We are never alone with our thoughts. So we are deprived from solitude, which is a negative thing, being deprived of something. It's keeping us from the God who whispers and wants to speak to us. He does not always speak in a loud, booming voice through all the noise. So I was also reading some articles, and this is from Dennis Buttimer, who is a psychologist, counselor, life coach. And I like the way that he phrased this. He spoke to stress, and he said, relaxation is a primary mechanism for healing. When you're under stress, your body's natural repair mechanisms are disabled. When you can cultivate stillness and silence, clarity develops in your mind, and it has a settling effect. Your body is not independent of your brain, so it will relax as well. So, we often feel anxious. A lot of us on this podcast, listening to this podcast, feel anxious and stressed. And getting alone and having that silence and solitude is proven that helps us calm down. It can be hard right now because there is, again, so much noise and so many conflicting studies out there. And so don't get this confused with that feeling of loneliness and how isolation can increase anxiety and depression. And I think that's the enemy's trick. It's to get us away from pursuing solitude. I actually, when I was researching this and just trying to find some facts and science on solitude, those were the majority of the facts that came up, was that isolation is negative for the brain and for the body, and for it increases anxiety and depression. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm trying to look up. I'm trying to research how it benefits decreasing anxiety and it benefits your spiritual wellness. But that's the enemy's trick, right? Everything is a shiny object, and it's taking us away from what we are really supposed to do, which is get alone with God and hear what he has to say, and not see what the internet has to say, and not see what the enemy has to say. But he wants to pull us away from that. So he screams this loud, obnoxious message that isolation is solitude equals isolation, and that's going to get us away from other people, and it's going to increase our anxiety and depression. There is a fine line of truth there. It is not truth. That is more for loneliness, and when you purposely isolate and take out relationships. And so actually the opposite is true. Spending alone time with God will decrease anxiety, and it actually helps you process your emotions, and it brings peace. But if you just look up the definition of solitude, so according to dictionary.com, it's the state of being or living alone, seclusion, remoteness, absence of human activity, lonely, unfrequented place, that all sounds negative, right? And that's the trick. It's don't go into solitude. Solitude's bad. Let's not be confused as believers and as people that have God with us. This is intentional solitude for the purpose to connect with God. Yes, it's totally different. Okay, so getting alone in solitude to be with the person of Jesus. So in fact, you're not alone at all. Psalms 46:10 tells us, "Be still and know that I am God." Or another translation, "Cease striving, let go, relax, and know that I am God." I first learned this as a teenager when I was at the Christian camp I went to all summer, every summer. We were together a lot, but we also had this very distinct time alone in the morning. It was called your morning watch. It still is to this day. I took my kids to camp this past summer, will again this summer, and everything is the same, and I love it. It is called morning watch, and you spend 20 minutes alone with God. But there's still like people around, and you can still, we're in main area of camp, and so you can still see people. But when we were teenagers and we have these 3 nights that we actually go camp in the woods, in the tents, and we get alone and we cook all our food over the fire. And I was actually terrified of it, but it was one of my favorite times as a camper. And I learned something that has, contributed to this prayer life that I have now. Because when we were out there in the woods, we actually spent a very extended time in solitude and silence with God in His creation. So I think that's actually the best way to do it. Now, honestly, I do it in my house now and inside, but I'm looking outside. I'm as close to outside as I can be. At this time at this camp, we were supposed to go find a place where you couldn't see anyone else. And you were alone with God as you could be in the solitude and in just the silence of just His creation. So you could hear leaves, you could hear birds, you could hear little twigs drop, and it was incredible. And that is when I learned to hear the voice of God. And it is very, I can still go back to that moment right now. I can see where I was. I can see everything around me because it marked my heart. It's there. It was a vision that is marked because I fixed my eyes on Jesus and I was alone with Him and He spoke to me. When you have those times, and they are, they're going to be monumental in your prayer life. But I'm no longer a teenager, and I'm now a mom, and you're a mom. So how do you do this? How do we get solitude and silence in this alone prayer time with God? How do we do it? Well, for Jesus, it was early in the morning. We read this a lot in the Bible. We read it was late at night. But it's like, Jesus, how do I do this? Okay, so for me, it is in the morning. So I do have my prayer time first, and then I have some work time, which is this podcasting. And so it's actually, still very spiritual, done with God, and I'm praying before and during, and I still feel like I'm with God, right? He's with us all the time. And then after that, I spend my Bible reading and more prayer time with God. So that's what it looks like for me. But wherever you can steal the time to be alone, that's what it's going to be for you. It's one of those things that we have to prioritize in our time. So if we just let our time go and not plan things out, it won't happen. It is a priority that is up to you to plan. God is not screaming at you, hey, I want it to be Friday at 5 a.m. He's not telling you that. So you have to find out when in my schedule am I going to meet with you every single day? When is it going to be? And have Him tell you. So I heard this story years ago. It's about Susanna Wesley, who is the mother of John and Charles Wesley, who are forefathers of the faith. And she had 11 children, and she still found time to pray. She still found time to be, quote unquote, alone. How did she do it? Her trick was to pull her apron up over her head, signaling to all her children around that mommy is praying. Don't bother me, I'm praying. It was like a do not disturb sign. This is what I'm doing right now. Leave me alone. Let me be with God and let me pray. If she can do this and she can be alone with God, have that solitude, aloneness with God in the midst of 11 children, then you can do it too. If she can do it, you can do it too. And obviously the kids are around and it's probably not even silent, but perhaps she did it in the morning too. Maybe this was when she did it in the middle of the day when she needed that moment of peace. God, bring back peace to this life because there's 11 children around me. I don't know. And you know what? When I was thinking about this, we also have amazing technology these days and noise canceling headphones and earbuds. You can even put those in and block the noise and go to God in your mind, and your kids might be around playing, but you're not really hearing them. You are in more of a solitude and silent spot. So that's a trick. Preferably, everyone's still asleep and it's in the morning and it's quiet, and you can have that quiet time to get your heart and mind ready for the day to come, right? That is probably ideal for most of us, I would say. But when you don't get that, in the car alone, take a drive alone. Or maybe you've dropped the kids off at a preschool and you can drive the rest of the way home and just be in solitude and silence with God. Maybe it's a quick walk after dinner and the husband's home and you all just had dinner and you say, I'm going to go take a quick 10-minute walk. And that's your solitude time with God. If you have littles, maybe it's at nap time. If you can't get up in the morning, they were up late or they woke you up a bunch of times. I don't know. Maybe it's at nap time. You steal those first few minutes when they're asleep and you have your solitude and silence time before you do all the other million things on your list and all the errands and all the cleaning and all the things that you try to squeeze in that 2 hours. First 15 minutes, give it to God. If you have school-age children, just tell them, hey, I'm going to go have some quiet prayer time with God for a few minutes. That actually will speak volumes to them. If your husband travels a lot and is gone a lot of the time, this might take a lot more planning on your part, but it is so worth it. It is your intentional time of solitude to be with Jesus. So you do have to plan it. I can't just get up early in the morning without planning to go to bed early at night. So when God first gave me these 4 solutions, and one being to spend time with Him, I was in complete postpartum anxiety. I had 2 toddlers, a newborn, but I had to find the time. It was one of the 4 non-negotiables God gave me. So once you get alone and quiet, then how do you hear God's voice? How do you hear what He wants to tell you? How do you pray to Him? I have read many books on this, and you may have too. And I have a few favorites that I'm going to reference and bring you this, forever old historical question. I actually read an incredible book last year on it, and I will share in another episode all of that information. For now, I want you to intentionally plan your solitude time with God. Let's put those intentions of having a prayer life into action and simply find the time. Find the time on the calendar when you're going to do it. Is it going to be in the morning? Is it going to be in the afternoon? Is it going to be at night? Make an appointment with God and set it on your calendar and on your tracker. And then set a place. Where are you going to have this time? Is it going to be outside? That would be amazing. Is it going to be in your prayer chair like mine? Is it going to be in the living room? Wherever. Find a place. And then get ready to share what's on your heart with God and just whatever He wants to tell you. And we're going to go more into that part in a future episode, but talk to Him about whatever for right now. Get alone with Him, have that solitude and silent time, and see what He wants to say. Print out my free wellness tracker in the show notes. Put your time on there that you're going to spend time with God in solitude and aim for it. Record how much time you get. Maybe play around with the different times, but make sure it's on there every day and you get it done. This is your most important time. So being with your Father is your most important time. So make an appointment. Don't miss it. Spend that time with Him. Figure out the kids to make it work. Your kids and family and you will be blessed all the more for doing this, okay? Share your tracker in the Facebook group for accountability. So that is bit.ly/holistic hacks. And I cannot wait to see your trackers in there. And I pray this blessed you and you can see the importance of getting alone and spending that time of solitude with God as the first thing you're going to do. The first thing that you're going to do to work on your prayer life and to work on hearing God's voice and to work on your spiritual wellness is to get alone with Him. Okay? We got it? I pray this blessed you today. May God Himself, the God of peace, sanctify you through and through. May your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. The one who calls you is faithful, and He will do it. 1 Thessalonians 5:23 and 24. Shalom, shalom. Hey, Wellness Warrior. I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at the Shan so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.